The interrogation room was cold and dark. Blue lights hummed on the ceiling. The walls were made of strange black metal that seemed to swallow sound. In the center of the room, a man sat inside a glowing energy field that held him in place like invisible chains. His name was Danny Carter. He was 34 years old. Before the war, he had been a construction worker in Ohio. He had a wife named Laura and a daughter named Megan. He did not know if they were still alive. He tried not to think about it. The door slid open with a soft hiss. A tall creature walked in. It stood almost 8 feet high and looked like a giant insect. Its body was covered in hard black shell. It had 4 arms and 2 legs. Its head was triangular, with huge compound eyes that reflected the blue light like broken mirrors. This was Commander Zorath of the Velthari Dominion. Zorath looked at the human for a long moment. He had interrogated many prisoners from many species. Most of them cried. Most of them begged. Most of them broke within hours. But this human just sat there, watching him with calm brown eyes. There was a long scar on his face, running from his eyebrow to his jaw. He looked tired. He looked thin, but he did not look afraid. "You will answer my questions," Zorath said. His voice came through a small device on his chest that translated his clicks and hisses into human words. "You will tell me about your military positions. You will tell me about your weapons. You will tell me how your species continues to fight when you have already lost." Danny Carter said nothing for a moment. Then he laughed. It was a dry, rough sound, like stones grinding together. "You want to know about the war?" Danny asked. "Fine, I will tell you everything. But I do not think you will like what you hear." Zorath's mandibles clicked together. This was a sign of interest among his people. "Speak," he commanded. Danny shifted in his containment field. His muscles ached. He had not slept in 3 days. But something in him came alive when he thought about what he was going to say. Something hard and cold and proud. "Let me start at the beginning," Danny said. "Let me tell you about the day your ships arrived in our solar system. The Velthari fleet had come to Earth 18 months ago. 300 warships, each one the size of a small city. They had appeared near Jupiter and sent a message to every radio frequency on the planet. The message was simple: surrender or die. The Velthari had conquered 11 other species before humanity. Each conquest had been quick and easy. Most species surrendered within days of seeing the size of the fleet. The ones who fought were crushed within weeks. The Velthari expected humanity to be the same. They had studied human broadcasts for years. They had seen the news reports about wars and crime and political fighting. They had seen humans argue about everything from religion to sports. They thought humanity was weak and divided. They were wrong. "When your fleet arrived," Danny said, "something strange happened on Earth, something that had never happened before in our entire history. We stopped fighting each other. Every country, every nation, every group that had been enemies for generations, they all looked up at the sky and saw the same thing. They saw a threat that was bigger than any of their old arguments." Danny remembered that day clearly. He had been at work when the news came. Everyone had stopped what they were doing and gathered around a television. The president was speaking. Then the Russian president was speaking. Then the Chinese president. All of them saying the same thing: "We will fight together. Your admirals gave us 72 hours to surrender." Danny continued. "Do you know what we did with those 72 hours? We moved every nuclear weapon we had into position. We aimed every missile we had at your fleet. And when the deadline came, we did not send a message of surrender." Danny smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We sent fire. The first human attack had been the largest nuclear strike in history. Thousands of missiles launched from submarines, silos, and aircraft. They flew through space toward the Velthari fleet. Most of them were shot down by the alien defense systems. But not all of them. 47 Valkyrie ships died in atomic fire that day. 47 ships and nearly 100,000 Valkyrie soldiers. That was the moment you should have left, Danny said. That was the moment you should have realized that we were not like the other species you had conquered. But you did not leave. You got angry. And you made the worst decision in the history of your dominion. Zorath stood very still. His compound eyes were fixed on the human. He had read the reports from the early days of the war, but hearing it from a human was different. There was something in Danny's voice that made his shell feel cold. You decided to invade, Danny said. You decided to land troops on our planet and crush us the old-fashioned way. You thought that would teach us a lesson. You thought that would break our spirit. Danny leaned forward as far as his restraints would allow. Instead, you gave us exactly what we wanted. A chance to fight you face to face. A chance to show you what humans are really made of. The ground invasion of Earth had begun 6 weeks after the first nuclear strike. The Valkyrie had landed troops in every major city on the planet. They had expected quick victories. They had expected frightened civilians running in the streets. They had expected governments to collapse. Instead, they found hell. Your soldiers walked into our cities like they owned them, Danny said. They walked in straight lines, in perfect formation, like they were on parade. They did not know what was waiting for them. Danny closed his eyes. He could still hear the sounds. The explosions. The screaming. The wet tearing noise that a Valkyrie made when it died. We had been killing each other for 10,000 years, Danny said quietly. We had invented 1,000 different ways to hurt and destroy. We had fought wars over land, over gold, over ideas, over nothing at all. Your kind had never seen anything like us. You were not prepared. He opened his eyes and looked directly at Zorath. Nobody is ever prepared for humans. Zorath wanted to speak. He wanted to say something to break the spell that seemed to hang in the air. But he could not find words. So he just stood there and listened as the human continued to talk. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice was telling him that his people had made a terrible mistake. Danny Carter shifted in his restraints and continued his story. The blue lights of the interrogation room seemed dimmer now, as if even they were afraid of what he was about to say. Let me tell you about the first week of the ground war, Danny said. Let me tell you what happened in New York City. The Valkyrie had landed 50,000 troops in Manhattan. It was supposed to be a simple operation. Take the city. Establish control. Show the humans that resistance was pointless. The Valkyrie commanders had expected it to take 2 days. It took 3 months. And when it was over, only 12,000 Valkyrie soldiers walked out alive. Your troops marched down our streets in perfect rows, Danny said. They were beautiful to watch, in a way. So organized. So disciplined. They walked past buildings without looking up. They walked over manhole covers without looking down. They did not understand that every window was a possible sniper position. They did not understand that under every street was a tunnel full of people who wanted them dead. Zorath's mandibles clicked nervously. He had read the reports from New York. They were classified at the highest level. Most Valkyrie citizens did not know what had happened there. The first ambush came on 5th Avenue, Danny continued. A group of soldiers walked past a parking garage. They did not notice the humans hiding in the shadows on the 3rd floor. They did not notice the homemade bombs packed with nails and broken glass. The explosion killed 30 of your soldiers in less than a second. And before the survivors could react, gunfire started coming from 6 different directions. Danny's voice was calm and steady, like he was talking about the weather. That was how we fought. Quick attacks, then disappear. We called it guerrilla warfare. We had been doing it for centuries. We did it against the British. We did it in Vietnam. We did it in Afghanistan. Your kind had never seen anything like it. The human paused to catch his breath. Even talking was hard when you had not eaten properly in weeks. But he was not going to stop. He needed the Velthari to understand. Your soldiers were bigger than us, Danny said. Stronger, faster. Your shells could stop most of our bullets. So we stopped using bullets. He smiled back cold. Hard smile again. We started using fire. The Velthari had learned very quickly that their shells, while strong against ballistic weapons, were weak against heat. A well-placed Molotov cocktail could crack a Velthari's armor. A homemade flamethrower could cook one alive inside its own body. Human engineers worked around the clock to design new weapons that exploited this weakness. There was a man named Pete Romano, Danny said. He was a chemistry teacher from Brooklyn. Before the war, he taught high school kids about atoms and molecules. Nice guy. Quiet. Never been in a fight in his life. Danny's expression darkened. After the Velthari killed his wife and 2 sons during a raid, Pete Romano invented something. He called it Roman fire. It was a mixture of chemicals that burned hot enough to melt through Velthari shells. He taught the recipe to anyone who would listen. By the end of the first month, every resistance cell in the city was using it. Zorath felt something he had rarely felt before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. Pete Romano killed 200 of your soldiers before he died, Danny said. But his invention killed thousands more. That is the thing about humans, Commander. When you hurt us, we do not just want revenge. We want to teach others how to get revenge too. We share our pain. We spread it around. The war in New York had been a nightmare for the Velthari, but it was not unique. The same story was playing out in every city on Earth. Moscow, Beijing, London, Tokyo, Mexico City. Everywhere the Velthari landed, they found the same thing. A population that would rather die than surrender. Your commanders did not understand why we fought so hard, Danny said. They kept sending reports back to your homeworld, asking for guidance. They had never seen a species behave this way. Usually, when you kill enough civilians, the rest give up. They become afraid. They submit. Danny shook his head slowly. But humans are different. When you kill our families, we do not become afraid. We become angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous things in the universe. He told Zorath about the children. That was the part that seemed to disturb the commander the most. Your soldiers learned to be careful around adult humans, Danny said. They learned to check buildings before entering. They learned to watch for ambush. But they did not learn to be careful around children. Danny's voice grew quiet. There was a girl named Sofia Martinez. She was 11 years old. She lived in Los Angeles. After the invasion, she lost her entire family. Her parents, her grandparents, her baby brother. She was alone in a world that had been destroyed. He paused. A Velthari patrol found her wandering the streets. She was crying. She looked harmless. One of the soldiers reached out to grab her, probably to take her to a processing center. Danny looked directly at Zorath. Sophia was carrying 4 pounds of explosives under her jacket. She killed 9 Velthari soldiers that day. She was 11 years old. The room was silent except for the hum of the lights. That is what you did to us, Danny said. You turned children into weapons. You made grandmothers into assassins. You made teachers into bomb makers. Every human on Earth became a soldier, whether they wanted to or not. Zorath wanted to say something about how barbaric this was. He wanted to say that no civilized species would use children as weapons. But the words died in his throat, because he knew, deep down, that his people had caused this. They had created these monsters by trying to destroy them. Your generals kept saying that victory was close, Danny continued. They kept saying that human resistance was about to collapse. They said that for 6 months. And every day, more Velthari soldiers died. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do you want to know the truth, Commander? The truth is that we were losing. We were dying faster than you were. For every Velthari we killed, we lost 10 humans. Maybe 20. Our cities were burning. Our food supplies were running out. Our hospitals were overflowing. Danny leaned forward. But we did not care. We did not care how many of us died, as long as we kept hurting you. As long as we kept making you pay for every inch of ground. That is something your strategists never understood. Humans are not afraid to lose. We are only afraid to surrender. Zorath finally found his voice. This is madness, he said. This is not how war is supposed to work. Danny smiled. It was the saddest smile Zorath had ever seen. No, Danny agreed. It is not. But it is how humans work. And now you are starting to understand why your people call Earth the planet of nightmares. Commander Zorath had been standing for hours, but he did not feel tired. He felt something much worse. He felt like he was watching a horror story unfold in front of him. And he could not look away. Danny Carter took a deep breath and continued. After 6 months of ground fighting, your high command decided to change strategy, Danny said. They realized they could not win on the streets. Too many soldiers were dying. Too many reports were coming back about mental breakdowns and desertions. Your troops were terrified of Earth. This was true. Zorath had seen the classified documents. Velthari soldiers who had served on Earth came back changed. Many of them could not sleep without medication. Many of them refused to ever serve again. Some of them took their own lives rather than face another deployment to the human homeworld. So your admirals decided to pull back to orbit, Danny said. They decided that if they could not conquer us, they would destroy us. They started the bombardment. The orbital bombardment of Earth had been the largest military operation in Velthari history. For 3 months, warships rained fire down on the planet. Cities were reduced to ash. Farmland was poisoned with chemical weapons. Oceans were contaminated with toxins that killed everything in the water. The first month killed 2 billion people, Danny said. His voice was flat, empty. 2 billion. Do you understand that number, Commander? That is more than the entire population of the Velthari Dominion. Gone in 30 days. Zorath said nothing. There was nothing to say. I was in Chicago when the bombardment started, Danny continued. We had about 10 minutes warning before the first strikes hit. My unit ran for the subway tunnels. We made it underground just as the world above us turned to fire. Danny remembered the sound. It was like thunder that never stopped. The ground shook so hard that people fell down and could not get back up. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. People screamed and cried and prayed to gods that did not answer. We stayed underground for 2 weeks, Danny said. When we finally came back to the surface, the city was gone. Not damaged. Gone. Just a flat plain of glass and ash where millions of people used to live. He paused. That was when I stopped being a soldier and started being something else. Something worse. The survivors had gathered in the ruins. Thousands of them, covered in dust and burns, with nowhere to go. The Velthari ships hung in the sky above them like metal moons. Everyone expected another attack. Everyone expected to die. But the attack did not come. Not that day. Your commanders thought the bombardment would break us, Danny said. They thought that when we saw our cities destroyed, we would finally surrender. They were wrong. Dead wrong. The survivors had not surrendered. Instead, they had dug in. They had found caves and tunnels and underground bunkers. They had built shelters out of rubble and debris. They had planted gardens in hidden valleys where the poison had not reached. They had done what humans had always done when facing extinction. They had survived. "We lost everything," Danny said. "Our homes, our families, our future. But we gained something too. We gained clarity. We knew exactly what we were fighting for. We were fighting because we had nothing left to lose." He told Zorath about the underground cities that had sprung up across the planet. Networks of tunnels and caves where hundreds of thousands of humans lived in the darkness, waiting for their chance to strike back. "Your ships thought they were safe in orbit," Danny said. "They thought we were beaten. They reduced their patrols. They got comfortable." A cold smile crossed Danny's face. That was when we reminded them that humans never stop fighting. The Resistance had been planning for months. Engineers and scientists who had survived the bombardment worked in secret workshops, building weapons from salvaged parts. They took apart old nuclear reactors and removed the fuel. They built missiles from the engines of destroyed aircraft. They created targeting systems from civilian satellites that were still floating in orbit. The first missile launched from a hidden base in the Rocky Mountains, Danny said. It was a crude thing, ugly and dangerous. Half the people who built it thought it would explode on the launch pad. But it did not explode. It flew straight and true, right into the heart of your command carrier. The Resolute Dawn had been the flagship of the Velthary occupation fleet. It was 3 miles long and carried a crew of 14,000. It had the strongest shields of any ship in the Dominion Navy. The human missile hit it just behind the main engine assembly. The nuclear warhead detonated inside the ship, bypassing the shields completely. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. 14,000 Velthary died in that attack, Danny said. We watched the explosion from our tunnels and shelters. People cheered. People cried. Some people just stood in silence, staring at the sky. He leaned forward. That was the moment your high command realized the truth. They could not win this war. They could not destroy us fast enough. No matter how many bombs they dropped, no matter how many cities they burned, there would always be humans left. And those humans would always be building more weapons. Over the next year, human resistance forces launched dozens more missiles. Some were shot down by Velthary defenses, but not all of them. By the time Danny was captured, the Resistance had destroyed 37 Velthary warships. Your admirals were scared, Danny said. I know because we captured some of their communications. They were sending messages back to your homeworld, begging for reinforcements. They were saying that Earth was a trap, a death sentence for anyone sent there. Zorath's compound eyes blinked rapidly. This was supposed to be an interrogation. He was supposed to be extracting information from the prisoner. But somehow, the roles had reversed. Now he was the one learning terrible truths. Your people call Earth the Maw, Danny said, because it swallows everything you send here. Ships, soldiers, resources. It takes and never gives anything back. He laughed softly. But here's the thing, Commander. We are just getting started. We have learned so much from fighting you. We have learned about your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Every day, we get stronger. Every day, we get closer to being able to take this war beyond Earth. Zorath felt his heart beating faster. That is impossible, he said. You do not have the resources to build a fleet. Danny smiled. Not yet, he admitted. But we are working on it. And humans are very patient when we need to be. We will wait 100 years if we have to. 1,000 years. However long it takes to make your people pay for what you did to us. The room fell silent again. That is what you need to understand, Commander, Danny said quietly. You did not just start a war with Earth. You started a war with a species that never forgets and never forgives. A species that will chase you across the galaxy, if that is what it takes to get revenge. He looked directly into Zorath's compound eyes. You should have just left us alone. Commander Zorath had stopped pretending this was an interrogation. He stood before the human prisoner like a student before a teacher, learning lessons he did not want to learn. Danny Carter's voice had grown rough from hours of talking, but there was still fire in his eyes. There was still that unbreakable something that made humans so terrifying to fight. "I want to tell you about the camps," Danny said. "I want to tell you what happens to the humans you capture." The Valkyrie had established labor camps across a dozen worlds. Humans who surrendered or were captured were shipped off-world to work in mines, factories, and construction sites. The conditions were brutal. The work was backbreaking. Many humans died within months of arrival. "Your people think the camps are secure," Danny said. "They think that once a human is behind those walls, they are broken, defeated, no longer a threat." He shook his head slowly. "They are wrong." Danny told Zorath about the resistance networks inside the camps. Small groups of humans who pretended to be obedient workers while secretly planning and preparing. They stole tools and materials. They memorized guard schedules. They learned the layouts of the facilities where they were held. "There is a camp on your colony world, Kethris," Danny said. 12,000 human workers in a mining facility. Your guards think those workers are scared and defeated. They are not. They are an army waiting to be activated. Zorath's mandibles clicked in alarm. "You are lying, am I?" Danny asked. "Then why did 3 of your guards disappear last month? Where did they go, Commander? Did they just walk away?" The commander said nothing. He knew about the missing guards. Everyone knew. The official report said they had gotten lost in the mines. But there had been rumors, whispers, stories that made even hardened Valkyrie soldiers nervous. "We killed them," Danny said simply. Slowly, quietly, we made sure no one would find the bodies. And we will keep doing it. One by one, month by month, year by year. Until the day we are ready to move. Danny described the coordination between different camps. Humans had found ways to communicate across vast distances. Messages hidden in cargo shipments. Codes buried in work reports. Signals passed through workers who were transferred between facilities. "Every camp knows the plan," Danny said. "Every group of workers knows what to do when the signal comes. It will be beautiful, Commander." Thousands of uprisings, all at the same time, across a dozen worlds. "Your guards will not know what hit them." Zorath tried to maintain his composure. "Even if this is true," he said, "your people are unarmed. You have no weapons. Our soldiers will crush any uprising within hours." Danny laughed. It was a genuine laugh this time, almost friendly. "You really do not understand humans, do you?" he asked. "We do not need weapons to kill. We have been killing each other with our bare hands for 100,000 years. We can make a weapon out of anything. A rock, a piece of wire, a sharpened bone." He leaned forward. "Let me tell you about a woman named Linda Hayes. She was a nurse before the war. Gentle, kind, the type of person who cried when she saw injured animals. She was captured during the fall of Denver and shipped to a labor camp on Valkyrie Prime." Danny's voice grew cold. In 3 years at that camp, Linda Hayes killed 19 guards. She used improvised knives, poison made from cleaning chemicals, and once, just her hands and teeth. She was finally caught 6 months ago. Your executioners needed 4 soldiers to hold her down. The room felt colder somehow. "Linda Hayes was not special," Danny continued. "She was average, ordinary, just a regular human pushed too far. And there are millions more like her in your camps. Millions of quiet, ordinary people who are slowly turning into weapons." Danny told Zorath about the other things happening in the camps. The technology theft. Human workers in Valkyrie factories memorizing designs and processes. Engineers who pretended to be simple laborers while learning everything they could about alien technology. "We have people in your shipyards," Danny said. "We have people in your weapons factories. We have people in your research facilities. Every day, they learn more. Every day, they send that information back to Earth." He smiled. "Do you know what we have been building in our underground cities?" "Ships, Commander. Real ships. Based on your designs, but modified. Improved. Human engineers looked at your technology and found 100 ways to make it better." Zorath felt dizzy. This could not be true. It was impossible. Humans were primitives. They had been a spacefaring species for less than a century. They could not possibly be building ships that competed with Velthri designs. But even as he thought this, a small voice in his mind reminded him of all the other impossible things humans had done. The nuclear strike that destroyed 47 ships. The urban warfare that killed millions of his soldiers. The missiles that brought down the Resolute Dawn. Humans kept doing impossible things. That was what made them so dangerous. "There is something else you need to understand," Danny said. "Something about human nature that your people have never grasped." He shifted in his restraints. "We adapt. We evolve. We change to meet new challenges. Your species has been the same for 50,000 years. You use the same tactics, the same weapons, the same strategies that your ancestors used. But humans are different. We change with every generation. Sometimes we change within a single lifetime." Danny held up his scarred hands as far as his restraints would allow. "I was a construction worker when this war started. I did not know how to fight. I did not know how to kill. But I learned. Every human on Earth learned. We became soldiers because we had to." His voice dropped. "And now we are becoming something else. Something new. Something that has never existed before in the history of the galaxy. We are becoming a species built for war. Every child born on Earth grows up learning how to fight. Every school teaches weapons training and tactics. Every family has lost someone to the Velthri." Danny looked at Zorath with eyes that held no mercy. "You wanted to conquer us. Instead, you created us. You turned a divided, distracted species into a unified war machine. You gave us a common enemy. You gave us a reason to put aside all our old conflicts and work together toward a single goal." He paused. The destruction of the Velthri Dominion. Zorath found himself backing away from the containment field. The human had not moved. He could not move. But somehow, he seemed larger now, more dangerous. "When this war ends," Danny said, "it will not end with humanity surrendering. It will not end with us accepting our place as your slaves. It will end with Velthri cities burning. It will end with your ships falling from the sky. It will end with your species learning what it means to face an enemy that absolutely will not stop." He smiled one last time. "We are coming, Commander. We are coming, and nothing in the galaxy can stop us." The blue lights in the interrogation room flickered. Danny Carter had been talking for nearly 6 hours. His throat was dry. His body ached. But he was not finished yet. Commander Zora stood on the far side of the room, as far from the human as he could get while still remaining inside. His compound eyes had not blinked in several minutes. His 4 hands hung limply at his sides. "Why?" Zorath finally asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you telling me all of this?" Danny smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was something triumphant in it. "Because I want you to understand what is coming," he said. "I want you to go back to your admirals and your generals and your leaders, and I want you to tell them exactly what I told you. I want them to know that they cannot win this war." He paused. "And I want them to be afraid." Zorath's mandibles clicked together rapidly. This was a sign of extreme distress among his people. "You are one prisoner," he said, Your words mean nothing. My people will not be frightened by the ramblings of a captured soldier." Danny laughed. It was a warm sound, almost friendly. "Maybe you are right," he admitted. "Maybe they will ignore everything I have said. Maybe they will continue to think that humanity is weak and broken. Maybe they will keep sending soldiers to Earth, and those soldiers will keep dying." He shrugged. "But I do not think so. I think you are going to send this recording to your high command. I think they are going to listen to every word. And I think some of them, the smart ones, are going to realize the truth." "What truth?" Zorath demanded. Danny's expression grew serious. "The truth that this war is not about Earth anymore. It is not about territory or resources or strategic positions. This war has become something much bigger than that." He leaned forward. "This war has become personal. Humanity does not want peace. We do not want negotiations. We do not want a treaty that lets both sides walk away. We want revenge. Pure and simple. We want to make the Velthari Dominion pay for every human life you have taken." Danny's voice was cold now, hard as iron. "You killed our cities. You killed our children. You poisoned our oceans and burned our forests. You tried to wipe us out like we were nothing more than insects." His eyes burned with an intensity that made Zorath take another step back. "Now we are going to return the favor," Danny told the commander, "about the long-term plans of the human resistance. The ships being built in underground factories. The weapons being designed in secret laboratories. The strategies being developed by human military commanders who had spent years studying Velthari tactics. In 10 years, we will have a fleet," Danny said. "In 20 years, we will have an armada. In 50 years, we will have the largest military force in the history of the galaxy." He smiled. "And every single ship, every single soldier, every single weapon will be pointed at you." Zorath shook his head. "You are insane. Your species is dying. Earth is a wasteland. You have no resources, no industry, no infrastructure. We have something better," Danny replied. "We have motivation. We have anger. We have an entire species united by hatred of a common enemy." He gestured with his bound hands. "Do you know what drives a human to keep fighting when everything seems lost? It is not hope. It is not courage. It is spite. Pure, stubborn spite. We keep fighting because we refuse to give you the satisfaction of our surrender." Danny told Zorath about the messages that human soldiers passed to each other before they died. Simple words, promises, oaths of vengeance that were whispered from father to son, from mother to daughter. "Every human child born on Earth grows up with one story," Danny said. "The story of the invasion. The story of the burning cities and the poisoned skies. And every child makes the same promise. They will never forget. They will never forgive. They will spend their entire lives working toward the day when humanity takes its revenge." Zorath felt something break inside him. It was not fear, exactly. It was something deeper. A realization that everything he had believed about this war was wrong. "You came to our solar system expecting an easy conquest," Danny said. "You expected us to bow down like all the other species you had conquered. But you did not understand what you were dealing with." He took a deep breath. "Humanity is not like other species. We were forged in fire. Our ancestors survived ice ages and plagues and natural disasters that would have wiped out any other creature. We crawled out of the mud and the darkness, and we conquered our entire planet. We did that without any help, without any guidance, without any of the advantages that other species had." Danny's voice rose. "And now you have given us the greatest gift you could possibly give us. You have given us something to fight for, something bigger than our petty arguments and political disputes. You have unified humanity in a way that nothing else ever could. He looked at Zorath with something that might have been pity. So thank you, Commander. Thank you for turning us into the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Thank you for giving us a purpose. The room fell silent. Danny Carter sat back in his containment field. He looked exhausted. He looked defeated. But there was a light in his eyes that refused to go out. What happens now? Zorath asked quietly. Danny shrugged. I suppose you will execute me. That is what usually happens to prisoners who will not cooperate. I have made my peace with that, he smiled. But before you do, I want you to remember one thing. I am nobody special. I am just an ordinary human. A construction worker from Ohio who got caught up in a war he never asked for. His smile widened. There are 8 billion more like me, and every single one of them is just as angry, just as determined, just as willing to die to see your empire burn. Zorath stood in silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, he turned and walked toward the door. Commander, Danny called out. Zorath stopped but did not turn around. When you send your report to High Command, make sure to include a personal message from me. What message? Zorath asked. Danny Carter's voice was soft, almost gentle. Tell them we are coming. Tell them to look up at the sky every night, because one day they will see our ships. And on that day, they will finally understand what they awakened when they came to Earth. The door slid open. Zorath stepped through. As it closed behind him, he heard the humans start to laugh. It was a sound that would haunt his dreams for the rest of his life. And in the darkness of the interrogation room, Danny Carter kept laughing. Because he knew something that the Veltari did not. The signal had already been sent on a dozen worlds. In 100 labor camps, human workers were beginning to move. The uprising was starting. The second phase of the war was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same again.